we'll wait for Vanessa to do roll, and also for more people to join anyway. It looks like we're still waiting for some folks. So I'll start with the first agenda item, to just talk about all of the SWABs had an event a little while back. I don't even remember what date it was, but basically looking at where the material for that's picked up in the curbside composting program, where it actually goes. And then also talking about some of the considerations as the program expands. So, right now it's only universal in Queens. The existing pilot programs, I think, are still ongoing in the other boroughs. So there is material being picked up in our other boroughs, but nowhere near what Queens has. And so as the city is rolling out curbside to all of the boroughs, presumably that's going to be a lot more material. And so the event, the panel was really great, talking about some of the considerations we have for that. So whether it's transporting in places, how to process it. We talked a lot about the difference between composting and anaerobic digestion. I raise all of this to say that it was recorded, and it is on, I put the Zoom recording on our YouTube channel, so it's easier to view. I'm gonna chat in the link now. The link to the recording's there. It's highly recommended to watch. I think it gave a really great overview of some of the issues that we've been talking about. I think that there are still enough questions for us to continue. We had talked a little bit about hosting a series of events as well, looking more at the issue of anaerobic digestion. I think that that's something we can still move ahead with. I think that the event was a great introduction, and there's still plenty of more questions to talk about. So I put that link in, and we'll kind of pick up that planning for the fall in terms of additional speakers to talk about. I had reached out to someone who works specifically with biosolids, which is outside of our jurisdiction, if you will. But it's essentially where a lot of the organic material is currently going, is to the wastewater treatment facilities and being co-digested there. So understanding a little bit about that process, I think would be very beneficial to us, in addition to just hearing about other things and other considerations. So definitely watch the video if you get a chance. And then if you're interested in getting involved with planning future talks, that's something we'll be working on in the committees going forward. So it looks like, did Vanessa join? Yes, Vanessa is here. Perfect. So we can start roll now, and hopefully we have quorum. We have a guest speaker coming a little bit later, with the hope that we had quorum at the beginning. So hopefully we do. I will pass off to Vanessa now to roll. If you're ready. If you're not ready, we can wait a second.
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay, wonderful.
Not at the desk, but I've got the list here, so bear with me, everybody. We'll go from the top. Andrea Scarborough.
Present.
Bilal Key. Diane Songyu. Gil Lopez. Janet Ferreira.
Present.
Jasmine McPherson. Jennifer Maldonado.
Present.
Jenny Lynn.
Present.
Angela Moore. Catherine Servino. Mac Lawrence.
I'm here.
Oh. Rachel Boglin.
Hi, I'm here.
Richard Nunez Lawrence. Ruth Essa. Susan Latham.
Here.
Hi. Toby Shepherd Block. Vanessa Ventola. Me. Community Board 1, Antonella Di Severio. Community Board 2, Frank Wu, or I see there's somebody else here from Community Board 2.
Yes, hi, I'm Benjamin Luckel. I'm hopping in to replace the CB2 person.
Great, thank you. Community Board 3, Megan Rockwell. Community Board 4, Carol Maholsky. Community Board 5, Walter E. Clayton Jr. Community Board 6, Patrina Schneiderman.
Here.
Community Board 7, James Servino. Community Board 8, Susan Cleary. Community Board 9, Regina Santoro. Community Board 10, Amanda or Emily Chang.
Our oversight hearing a couple of weeks ago, a lot of these towers aren't even activated. So they really
Community
have
Board
to-
11. Community Board 12, Reverend Thorbs.
Present. To make it.
That's it. Great. Community Board 13. Community Board 14. Organizational representatives, Cures, Mary Arnold.
Present.
LIC Partnership, Charles Yu. Mr. T. Carding, Adam Mitchell.
I'm here.
NYC H2O, Ryan Brenner.
I'm here.
Queens Botanical Garden, Evie Hansopoulos.
Hello, here.
Queens Chamber of Commerce. Queens County Farm Museum. Okay, any other voting members present who didn't have their name called?
Charles Yu from LIC Partnerships here.
Oh, great. Hi, Charles. Okay.
Sorry.
And Antonella Di Severio. Also, sorry I joined late. I'm having
Hi.
connectivity issues.
That's quite okay. Thank you. 5, 6, 7.
Vanessa, it looks like Walter Clayton is joining. Not sure.
Wonderful. Welcome. In that case, we've reached quorum, and if anybody else comes in, say hi in the chat, and guests say hi in the chat too.
Yeah, I had a hard time getting on. It told me I had to update to Zoom.
Yeah.
Yes, they always do that at the beginning of logging in and out.
I know. This ain't my only Zoom meeting. I attend the other Zoom meetings. It's the first time that ever happened.
Yeah.
So it was quick. The update was quick.
Great.
Yeah.
Also, I'm going to put this in the chat. We're trying this out for if there are guests and members, you can look and see what you think too, as like a digital guest sign in, so we can get some, if folks are interested in getting more involved, this little Google form, we can collect some information about people who are attending and want to get more involved. So trying that out this time. Great. So since we have a quorum, I think we will start with our items that need voting on, and then we have a speaker coming later in the evening to talk about an opportunity we have with the Speaker of City Council. So I will turn it over to the nominating committee to talk about the slate of candidates. And again, we have the opportunity for nominations from the floor as well. So maybe we can, yeah, no problem. So maybe you can talk a little bit about the slate, and then we can go position by position and see if there are floor nominees and then vote on that. So I don't know, Mary, Andrea, who wants to?
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Ryan. We do have a full slate to present to the board, and would like to thank Mary and Bilal, who worked on this, and everyone else that helped and contributed in any way they did. So thank you all. Our slate to present for the 2023-2024 term for SWAB. Our chair, Ryan Brenner, who remains our chair. Hopefully, we still have to vote. Vice chair, we are presenting the board with Evie Hanzopoulos to be our vice chair. Recording secretary, we are presenting Reverend Colleen Forbes to be our recording secretary. Correspondence secretary, we are presenting Vanessa Ventola. And sergeant of arms to round this out, we are presenting Susan Latham. I can now open the floor for nominations. Are there any nominations coming from the floor? Hearing none, we can proceed with the vote. At this time, I will turn it over to you, Mr. Chair, to conduct the vote.
Wonderful. So if all the positions are uncontested, can we vote on this slate as one vote, or do we?
You can vote the slate at one.
Okay, perfect.
And I'd like to make a motion, if I can, since I'm part of the slate, that we approve the slate of officers as presented by Andrea Scarborough. If anybody would like to second that.
I'll second.
Okay, go ahead, whoever else that was.
Yeah, perfect. So I'll open if any of the candidates want to say anything, or if anyone wants to have any discussion, we can take a moment for that now. Great. I think we're all very excited. Speaking for myself, but also the other candidates. Everyone's really looking forward to serving the SWAB. So
speaking as part of the nominating committee, I will let you know we were very intentional in terms of reaching out and who we reached out to. We were really for folks that we have seen over the last 2 years that have been active in SWAB. And I personally feel that this is a very, very strong, or will be a very, very strong board. So just look forward to serving under you all leadership.
Thank you. Thank you. With that, we can go with a vote. So everyone in favor of the slate as presented, say aye.
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 Wonderful. And any opposed?
Ayes have it.
Any abstentions? Wonderful. So congratulations to all of the officers. Very exciting stuff. With that, kind of, I don't see anyone on from the borough president's office. If I'm missing you, please let me know. I still don't have a good sense of what the situation is in terms of appointments and reappointments. I think that's happening. I've reached out and kind of asked to get a check on the status of that. Hopefully we'll be hearing soon. We've sent along, we had a form where folks on SWAB could recommend individuals and organizations for the borough president to reach out to. We sent that along. Presumably the people here are being reappointed. It's just a matter of some new folks as well. But yeah, so hopefully we'll have an update on that. We have new officers. Hopefully we'll have the board squared away as well. I'll let you know as soon as I hear. Great, and we have Richard here as well, my son. Great, so we can move on now to the state's solid waste management plan. And then again, we have a guest speaker coming later. So maybe Mary, do you want to talk a little bit about the process and what this is in response to give some background?
Sure, thank you. First of all, I'd just like to say how grateful I am for all the people that did participate, including our legislative committee and our compost committee from SWAB. And it was a kind of a daunting task, and we were fortunate in the Manhattan SWAB leadership. Of course, they've been around for 30 years, so they've had a lot more practice than we have at 2 years old. But it was the draft was over 500 pages long. We focused on the action items, which was still about 50, I don't know, more than 50 pages long. And then there were comments, iterations of comments, and including last night when we went through the whole document again, page by page, to come up with the draft that you all received today. We've worked down to the wire because it was a lot of work, and I don't know how many. I didn't go to all the sessions. I don't know, maybe some of you were at sessions that I wasn't at, but it was a massive task. So what you see before you is kind of the collective wisdom of, you know, the committees from the SWABs and the people that participate on those committees to come up with a way for the state to implement the Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act through this solid waste management plan. And I'm very proud of the work that we did. I hope that you were able to review it to some degree or other to satisfy yourself that, you know, we may sign on to this. NYPIRG has signed on. And there may be, I'm sure there are others too, but I did receive a message from NYPIRG because I had sent from Civics United for Robert Environmental Solutions a request to the state through NYPIRG to extend the deadline. We did get a few weeks, but that was it. So I'm just going to make a motion that SWAB sign on to the document. I'd ask for a second and then have discussion.
Second.
Thank you. So we have motion and second on the document. Let me or Mary, if you have the link to put in the chat. If not, I can pull it up. But let's go into discussion now. You know, I think the email I mentioned, like it's unfortunate that the deadline is so tight that we are in a position where it's kind of an approve or not. I think we can pass along things to the board or to the other boards to consider, but I don't know realistically that there's much opportunity at this point to have things change for the deadline tomorrow. So I think that where we are is a up or down vote on the final document about whether we want to endorse it or not. If folks have things that they want to point out, we could start there, or we can just talk in general. So I'll open the floor and I'll look for the link to send that again in the chat. Anyone who wants to talk, raise your hand and I'll Wonderful. Thank you, Effie, for putting it in. I'll say I think it's, thank you, Mary, and everyone else who was involved in this process. It was a huge lift. The report itself, the state solid waste management plan has, I think it's like 168 action items, I think is what they said. And so going through specifying what the recommended changes and also why in the document that this joint SWAB group put together. So going through all 168 or however many there were. So that was a huge undertaking. Other thoughts on the document? And also move right to vote if we want to do that.
Move the question.
All right, great. Why don't we do we can do a voice vote. We'll do a voice vote, and if there's an issue, we can do raise hand and count.
Right.
Perfect. So all those in favor of signing on to endorse the comment from the All SWAB committee on the state solid waste management plan, say aye.
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 As you can see, it has 5 bays.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
I'm gonna abstain.
Right. Great, so it looks like that motion carries. Wonderful. So thanks again, Mary, for all the work and for everyone else who is involved in that. We'll pass that off, and the joint SWAB group will submit that to the state tomorrow. Wonderful.
Thank you.
Great. So I think that we can move. We're moving very quickly, which is wonderful. Our guest is coming at 7:15, I think, is when he should be on. So we can move to other items while we wait. I think so for committee updates, I think, Mary, that's the legislative committee update since that took up all of your committee time. Is that correct, or are there other things?
Just, the passage of the 5 zero waste bills, that was a big win as well. So there you go. It's a great year for us, I think, as a SWAB. In our second year, we have we did a lot of policy work, a lot of legislative work, a lot of work with our sister and brother SWABs, and just thank everybody for pitching in, and I hope that you'll consider actively participating in the legislative committee in the coming year. Thank you.
Thank you.
Brian.
Yes.
I did get an email stating that there is a planned zero waste celebration on July the 13th at 4:30 p.m. at 23 Park Place, over City Hall area. I'll look for the email and send it out in case anyone wants to join in the celebration.
Perfect. Yes, thank you. Thank you for raising that. I did see that email, but
You guys got married.
so that'd be great.
Hey, Brian, should we pass the minutes from last meeting?
Yeah, that's a great idea. And I think that we had one other month as well. The previous month, last month, we didn't vote. So was that a motion to approve the minutes?
Yes, motion to approve the minutes. The last meeting and the meeting before.
Yeah.
There, a second.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Wonderful, great. So minutes are up to date. Thank you, Adam, for pointing that out. I got an email from Bilal with some updates on the Environmental Justice Committee. Who let me know we wouldn't be able to make it tonight. Basically, we have a save the date for an event on the disadvantaged communities issue that we've been working on. So under the CLCPA, the state's climate action law, there was a committee that basically put together a definition of disadvantaged communities, with those communities being slated to have a set percentage of any funding for environmental projects going to them. And so our focus on Queens was that the disadvantaged community definition that the board adopted or put together or mapped or whatever was not a great representation of the disadvantaged communities of Queens. And so we've been working a lot with this issue and have put together an informational session. And there'll be a panel, it's TBA, but save the date for July 22nd, 1 to 3 p.m. at the Greater Nexus in Jamaica, Queens. So I'll put that in the chat here, these details. Right now, it's just a save the date, but the event is moving forward. And so if you're interested in getting involved with that, the Environmental Justice Committee will be working on those details. Also, and this comes from an issue from the State of Wasting Queens report, is looking at 311 complaints for issues relating to quality of life in Queens community districts. There were a few that were pulled out from the State of Wasting Queens report for further monitoring. And so the EJ committee is going to be taking that up, looking at monitoring 311 complaints. And also related to that, I gave a presentation to CB2. We had talked about putting together some presentations on what SWAB is, and then also highlighting some of the solid waste data for each of the community districts. And so piloted that with CB2, and I think it went pretty well. And so monitoring not only 311, but also some of the tonnage data to look at recycling rates and composting rates as a way to really tailor a presentation to the specific community board to talk about, what their diversion rates look like relative to the rest of Queens and to other community districts, to reach out particularly to the folks who maybe have lower diversion rates and figure out ways that we can kind of promote recycling or composting. So that's something that we started. So if you're interested in either 311 data or the tonnage data, we have a lot of work coming up related to that, both in terms of this environmental justice lens of tracking 311 complaints, and then also in terms of presenting that to the community board. Also, from the Environmental Justice Committee, they're working on identifying an area to do a cleanup. We've talked about how cleanups are great in general, and also a great opportunity for us to get together in person in a non-meeting format. So we really want to try and start doing some cleanups, which folks are voluntary, just coming to help do trash pickups. But so the idea is we would start doing that in the new fiscal year. And so if any of the community boards or anyone else who just knows of areas that could use a cleanup, reached out to Bilal or the Environmental Justice Committee to try and start setting some of those up. I think that was all that he had sent. If there's anyone else on the Environmental Justice Committee who has further information clarifying or additional things that I missed, definitely feel free to chime in.
Good job, Ryan.
Wonderful. So, with that, I can pass over to communication and education if you all have updates for us. Oh, and we have, or Benjamin, if you want to just chime in first.
I'm sorry, it's with a little bit of a delay. I forgot where the raise your hand was on Zoom. Just a quick question about the outreach to the parts of the community that have the lowest rate for conversion or diversion to composting and things like that. Is there any funding that is dedicated to that or that can be dedicated for that? Because like I'm a community composter. Some people in my part of the neighborhood know me as the compost guy. And I remember a few times receiving emails from DSNY, basically simply announcing that we community composter were our outreach branch and we were the one to talk about the brown bin program. The problem is that that cannot work because we're preaching the converted. And as community composters, we're all volunteers. So we don't really have necessarily bandwidth to expand and try to reach out. So I was wondering that question if someone knows the answer.
Yeah, that's a really good question. Susan, yeah, go for it.
Can I ask what neighborhood are you in?
I'm in Woodside, the limit between Woodside and Sunnyside.
So I know that I've been working with, I guess I can't remember if it's DSNY or Big Reuse, but they have funding until July, and we've been working with them at doing events with free bin giveaways at all the libraries. We did one in Woodside, we did one in Sunnyside, and they've only got funding, I think, through July. So that would be somebody to reach out to if that's something that you're interested in. I can put her name and phone number or name and email address in the chat. Her name is Sarah Woodruff. So she could do something, in partnership, but they don't have actual funds to give to anybody.
Okay, so I'm aware of that. Thank you very much. We're actually organizing a giveaway at Rusty Wheelbarrow Farm, which is one of the place we were talking at least about organizing one at Rusty Wheelbarrow Farm in July using this funding. But I was wondering if there were any other sources, so like community organizations like Rusty, Woodside, Sunnyside Composting, Moore Jackson Cemetery, and etc. could print flyers and maybe distribute them in the street, things of that sort. But yeah, thank you very much.
The only other thing I would suggest is that you speak with your city council member. So I guess that would be Julie Wan, and see if her office, because the other problem is, how do you get the funds? Who does it go to? And you don't want to do a grant process, but if you just wanted to get copies of flyers, you could speak with her office and see if they would be willing to just, print you 1,000 flyers and send stuff out through their community listings by email.
Yeah. And in the chat, Evie has another suggestion here, the Citizens Committee for New York. And I think, I don't know any off the top of my head, but I think that this is something where, if the community boards are looking at funding and need data and support from groups, that's something that this could feed into, as well as, I've seen things from the state around local projects. And so, I think it would be difficult for SWAB to orchestrate something, but I think that if a community board was interested in something, and we could put together data on things like 311 complaints and diversion rate and can help in that capacity. It sounded like, so for CB2, it was the Parks and Environment Committee that I was presenting to, and it sounded like there was an interest in getting some data updates for existing projects. And so I think that, I think we can, as we start to build this out, if members of SWAB notice these opportunities, we can kind of compile them and pass them along. But I do think that as community boards also find these opportunities, that's definitely an area that we could partner with. And also through City Council, the Borough President's Office, like as we're highlighting areas, whether they're environmental justice areas or areas that maybe could use some more education on recycling and composting, that's an area where we could identify and suggest areas to reach out to. But yes, thanks for raising them.
Thank you very much.
I would also suggest looking into one of the citizen committee neighborhood grants. I'm not really sure the details of, you know, everything your project is, but I know they support community neighborhood projects.
Mac, is that
Yeah.
Is that where we got the funding for the reuse?
Yeah. Yeah,
The
that's
bag?
actually,
Yeah.
way back when Wiley was around, we were able to get a small grant through them to do that reusable bag event.
And can you remind me, did we have to get someone to be our fiscal sponsor for that? Was there some issue with being able to get the money?
Yeah, we did have to have one.
Did we use the Manhattan SWAB for that? We probably could dig that up, but
no, I think I think it was food rescue leftover.
Oh yeah, rescuing leftover cuisine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That's something, you know, institutionally as a SWAB is something we could also talk about considering is what was passed off to me is that, you know, we don't have a bank account even. So our ability to take in funds is non-existent. So if that's something that we wanted to explore, because I believe that Manhattan SWAB does have, because they do fundraisers, and I think they also give grants. So they have that ability. If that's something that we want to do, I think it's definitely possible. But I think, yeah, right now we don't have that ability. Oh, you do have a fiscal sponsor. Good to know. Wonderful.
No, Manhattan SWAB has a fiscal sponsor. Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. So, you know, I think that we can definitely look to what Manhattan SWAB is doing for that if we did want to look into doing that more for one-offs, like it might make sense to just partner, but if we want to expand further, what that looks like. Great. So yes, Communication and Education Committee. Are there any updates you'll have?
There's not too many updates. So we looked at your deck and it looked great. And Dan is actually interested in helping with kind of going to community boards and speaking about QSWAB. So we could definitely check in with you on how to best do that and maybe get more members and more involved in the committee, but otherwise not too much.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. Yes, I think I can share the slides that I put together for a base example, and we can build off of those. And I think it's great. Our idea, I think, with that is we would have it be volunteer based. So if the community board representatives wanted to either take on or partner with someone else giving the presentation, if people wanted to present to their own community boards, or if you're just interested in going around and talking to people about QSWAB and what we do and ways folks can get involved, I think that there's lots of opportunities for folks to get involved that way if there's interest. And I think that that's also something that the Borough President's Office is interested in, really getting the community boards involved with our work here on the SWAB. Let's see, are there any other committee updates that I'm missing? I think that's it. Great.
I have a question.
Yes.
Sorry. For community board presentation, who do we reach out to? Like if we want to have someone present to our environmental committee?
Yeah. You can email me. You can email the Queen's email, Queen SWAB email. Either is fine. And we can work to set that up. Particularly for folks who are, here and on. It was, folks who were already involved with QSWAB who were asking about presenting. So I think if someone here who's involved wants to get a presentation, just email. And then going forward, we can reach out to other boards. But starting with the ones that are asking, I think is a good place to start.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So with that, I think our guest is here, so I can turn it over to James. If you want to give a little talk about the roundtable opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you so much, Ryan, for giving me some time to speak here. Hi, everyone. My name is James Sheldon. I'm a community liaison in the Community Engagement Division at the New York City Council for Speaker Adrian Adams. So the reason I asked Ryan to join this call is to share an opportunity with you all to meet with the speaker. Basically, our office organizes roundtables that are hosted by the speaker, attended by advocates, leaders, and experts of like one particular issue area that is the topic of the roundtable. So recently, my co-director Carlos Carino suggested I reach out to the 4 active SWABs and see if there might be some interest in meeting with the speaker. So some reasons you guys might want to consider attending, those include it gives the speaker and other council members just a better opportunity to understand challenges you guys face when dealing with the city. It helps them understand, I guess, bigger issues just in like the solid waste sector, whether that be like staffing or fundraising or something else. It's an opportunity to build relationships with the speaker and other council members. It's possible that one or a few council members from the committee on solid waste and sanitation would show up. And lastly, it's an opportunity for you guys to share successes you've had, more details about the work you do. And if you guys are involved with nonprofits, that could be a great thing to do if you're looking for funding from the city in the future. So yeah, I made this announcement on the Brooklyn and Bronx SWAB Zoom calls recently. They both expressed some interest and are going to get back to me with a list of interested members. So yeah, ideally, I'd like to have, if the interest is there, like 4 to 5 members from the 4 different active SWABs. Yeah, I think that's about all I have. If there's any questions, I'll do my best to answer them now. This would be the first roundtable that I have put together. If I don't know the answers now, I can run over to my co-director and get back to you guys. But yeah, I'll put my phone number and my email in the chat. If there is any interest or questions, you can reach out to me later as well.
Yes, thank you. It looks like we do have 2 questions, or 3. So Rev Thorbs, if you want to start, I saw your hand first. I think you're muted if you're asking a question. There you go.
Hello, this is Fitzroy Searles. I believe you unmuted me and not Rev Phillips. But if you would like me to go first, or I could let her go first.
Oh, go for it. I actually, yeah.
Right. Okay. All right. So this is my first meeting, and I'm actually on the community board with Reverend Phillips. She's our chairperson. One of the questions that I had is, I know that based on Mr. Sheldon's presentation, that that the city is willing to provide resources, but for cleanup. But one of the issues that we have in our district tends to be dumping, as well as municipal waste or solid waste vehicles being parked inside of the industrial park, but also on commercial and residential streets. And I was just wondering what type of resources would either the SWAB or the Speaker's office be able to provide to eliminate those problems, especially since our district is the Speaker's district.
Gotcha. Thank you. That's a great question. I'm not exactly sure the answer off the top of my head, but that is something I could bring to the attention of the council members on that committee.
Understood, because one corridor is 90th Avenue between, what is it, Douglas Avenue and Linden. I'm sorry, Liberty Avenues. Every morning, there's 4 large solid waste trucks parked there, also blocking traffic in 2 traffic lanes. And so they have active they're full with waste because the tops are covered.
Okay.
Reverend Dobbs also mentioned Tuskegee Airmen Way as being another location.
Okay. Well, that's illegal, number one. Are they idling? Because they're obviously waiting to.
They're not idling. I know I've called 311 trying to issue complaints, trying to get them specifically on the fact that they're illegally parked and they're
Right.
blocking the traffic lane. And the 103rd precinct, which is actually about 2 blocks away from the location, has done absolutely nothing regarding this.
You have your 311 SR numbers?
I do not, but I could make some calls tomorrow as well as on Friday and follow up with you guys with them.
Have you all brought it up at, 103 attends the CB12 meetings. Have you guys brought it up to 103? To the
Yes,
precinct?
I have. I've brought it up to the commanding officer, to the lieutenant, and no action is taken whatsoever. Those vehicles are there. The only time those vehicles move is when those guys are hauling the waste off to another location.
Well, you may want to go to the chief, because I know over on our end, we had the issue and we actually went through our precinct. Through the 113.
Yeah,
to get the issue resolved over around.
Like the chief for that precinct has been on the community board meetings. The same way I'm being vocal with you guys, I am very vocal with him as well, and he has done absolutely nothing. Because I live in the 113th, but as I'm dropping my daughter off in the morning, I have to pass it every morning.
All right, well, I would recommend every morning you start keeping a record on the 311. Get your spreadsheet going, indicate which truck it is, what company it is. We did an initiative like that eventually helped in our area, but start by at least keeping a record of all your 311 calls, and then be able to present as data to the precinct or to the chief.
We'll do.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for raising that, and I think that goes a lot towards what we can do with what Bilal was talking about with monitoring 311 calls. I mean, monitoring 311 calls remotely is one thing, but putting together resources for people who are actively making 311 calls, like Andrea just shared, like I think that there's a lot of resources that we can put together as a SWAB to help share that, help people make the complaints, share best tips and whatnot. So I think that's something that we can definitely internalize and share with folks. So thanks again for raising that.
And, you know, if we then weigh in, if you're not getting any response from the precinct, then maybe as a board, we can then weigh in to our borough president around this. But first, you got to have the data. It starts with having, you know, the ammunition, the data.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'll just weigh in real quick as well. If you contact the office of Councilwoman Savina Brooks Powers, they'll probably be able to put you in contact with, there's actually an active illegal tractor trailer working group. It's headed by Bill Perkins.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of, you know, data that they've collected that, you know, they work closely with, you know, the authorities, DOT, the council members, and there has been able to get resolution in that. It is something that is very tedious. It takes a long time. You have to do a lot of reporting. You have to call it in a lot, get a lot of SR numbers, 311 numbers. But I would definitely even reach out to that office as well, because they were very instrumental in, you know, some of the tolls that happened last summer.
Yeah. Thanks for that, Mac. I forgot about that task force. Yeah, that's a good one.
Thank you. Mary, I see your hand is next. And you're muted.
James, Mary Arnold here. I just wanted to thank the speaker for bringing the skip the stuff and the zero waste bills to the floor and shepherding them through to successful votes. And I just want to say that I think definitely the SWAB should take advantage of this, you know, this opportunity to meet with the speaker. I think it's wonderful that there's this outreach, and, you know, I hope that we quickly take advantage of it. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that.
And then Matt.
Yes, good evening. I just want to know when's the time frame for the roundtable?
Yeah, that's a good question. So the earliest it would happen would be like late fall, early winter.
I'm gonna just see what they have, and then I'm gonna call for them.
But basically,
So tell me if anyone you want to. Tell me if anyone you want me to call.
sorry, basically, I will see who's interested from the 4 different SWABs, and then work with everyone who's interested to see when who's available and kind of figure it out like that.
Okay. All right. So you said late fall, early winter.
Yep. Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
And then Adam.
James, I think it's a great idea to have engagement with us across the SWAB, which is fantastic. And our group is actually lucky to have a couple different representatives, actually covering all the different representatives from business groups like Charles Yu's group. And on our side, we've always had the private haulers have had a challenge in having a good setting to have true engagement and honest discussion. So look forward to hopefully being able to participate.
I think that would be great. Absolutely. Thank you, Adam.
Wonderful. Other questions, comments? Great. Yeah, I mean, I think this is definitely something we're interested in. Definitely, we would encourage the other SWABs to participate as well. I think what we could do internally is kind of no problem. Thanks, Walter. We could figure out who we want to go. We could put together some priority talking, a list of topics to cover. I think that we could definitely figure that out and see who we want to send. So I think that you can mark us as being interested, participating.
I'm super glad to hear that. Thank you. Thank you all. But yeah, I'll definitely be in touch with Ryan and yeah, it just as it develops more, we get closer to that time of year.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you. Great. So, the only other thing that I have is, so with Skip the Stuff, the bill and the zero waste bills in general, I think, but mostly Skip the Stuff. There's going to be some implementation work happening. So, you know, obviously passing bills is one thing, and then making sure that people know about what the program is. When it involves restaurants, like Skip the Stuff, making sure people know what the law changes, what's required of them. So I guess there's a coalition that worked around Skip the Stuff reached out to me. I actually forget which one it was, but basically DSNY has a ton of informational material on the Skip the Stuff bill in particular, which I think the main part of that is, rather than having the default for ordering food, rather than the default being that silverware and whatnot comes with it, you have to actually opt in and request it if you want it. So there's a ton of informational material, and they're going to be doing kind of, I don't know if they're going like canvassing or just tabling at events, but there's going to be a lot of opportunities this summer in particular to participate. So if anyone is interested in that, I don't know any details of like specific events now, but if you're interested in talking with people about what the change in the law is, if you're interested in going out to restaurants and talking to businesses about what the change in the law is, let me know, because there's a lot of opportunities for that that different groups are going to be working on, and I was asked if we would be interested in doing that. So if folks are interested, send me an email and I can get you connected. And if we ever want to do something as a SWAB, we can do that too. We did, I think, 2 tablings for the initial rollout of curbside composting. And I think, you know, they're great opportunities if we're able to get folks who can go to just talk to people, talk to them about the SWAB, talk to them about the specific thing that we're there for. But, you know, we get a ton of people signing their emails and getting involved with SWAB. So if people are interested in this or are on the fence and are thinking about it, yes, thanks, James. And definitely you feel free to stay, but also feel free to hop off if you don't want to stay for the rest of the meeting. And we'll be in touch. But yes, I think that they're great opportunities for things. So if folks are aware of events that QSWAB should be at, if people are interested in doing that, we could do like an ad hoc committee of just people who are interested, and we can kind of respond to requests as they come up. You know, I think it could be fun if you get free entry to different things going on at Queens, if nothing else. So definitely let me know if that's something you're interested in. With that, I think that's all of the agenda items I had. Yes, Jenna, I see your hands raised.
Yeah, just kind of hopping off what you mentioned, Ryan. I think one of the great tabling, at least for us to like be tabled at, would be like the farmers market for starters, especially with the abundance of like all the, you know, summer fruits and vegetables. I feel like it's such a crowded time, having a lot of people, like whether it's in Jackson Heights or East Elmhurst. And I think Grow NYC Queens, they reached out to, you know, like working with them, like whether, you know, we could like do a table in one of their, so I could definitely like connect and just kind of see where, obviously giving us ample time, you know, something what we did like with the Queens Farm, just, you know, being with these events. And I'm happy to like volunteer myself at one of these farmer markets events, to be there for an hour or so, just really engaging with the community and welcome. Once I figure out when that time will be, with them and like where to take them.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. And I think, and you know, also at the events, I know when I was there, folks would come up and let us know about other events that a different group was putting on and invite us to do that. So I think, you know, having a group of people who are interested in going to those events, to then share that and just say, we were invited to an event at this time. Is there anyone that's available and interested? And then get them materials. I think, you know, we don't have a ton of printed materials, but, you know, DSMY will give us some stuff if we want. I have a table and chairs that we can bring with a little tent if it's raining. I think that there's like any opportunity that we want, we have plenty of them. So it's just a matter of whether people are interested. And I think that the composting at farmers markets, I think that there's a lot of opportunities to reach out to people. So I think that's a good idea. Other items folks have, issue areas to cover, events. Yes, Allison.
Hi, I'm with the Manhattan SWAB, the Organics Committee, and I didn't see Gil here tonight, and I just wanted to kind of give an update a little bit on our meeting we had earlier this week. And, you know, Ryan, I was very excited. My ears perked up when you mentioned that you've had collected stats, you know, on recycling in a presentation. Because, you know, one of the things we collected some information on the organics rates for Queens, you know, since the restart, because DSNY really has not released any information. I personally haven't had a chance to really look at it. I've been in the car all day. So we'll be looking at it from first glance, and I could be wrong. It appears that the numbers aren't as strong as they were, you know, prior to the pause. You know, is it yard waste? We don't know. But we were talking about creating weekly, you know, I don't know how to use open data. I wish we did, but maybe Ryan, if you're like an expert, we can collaborate somehow. Because I think we were talking about putting together like a dashboard. All the SWABs could put it on their websites that basically show the recycling. I mean, organics, yes, but all recycling. I think someone touched on that as well. I mean, we have to increase all those rates. So if it's public information, that'll drive people to our websites respectively. So I would love to maybe talk offline more about that, because it's really important. And we were talking about doing it too. And Ryan, I think I copied you on the spreadsheet. I don't know if you had a chance to look at it or if you had any. Okay. The other thing our meeting, we primarily talked about the food scrap drop-off sites, and you know, there's concern that they've lost budget, concern about their future. So we spent basically the whole meeting talking about, you know, how can we help build the case for community composting, protect food scrap drop-offs. So we're going to actually meet again at our regular scheduled time, which is the second Monday of the month, which I think is July 10th, to follow up on that. We also, we didn't get a chance. I don't know how many of you went to the panel on, you know, where do New York City's organics go, but it was an interesting panel. We didn't have we'd hoped to kind of have a debrief discussion on it. We didn't have that chance. But there is a DEC is having a session on biosolids tomorrow. For anyone interested, they're, you know, concerned about PFAS and biosolids, and there's increasing concern about that. So I could put something I could put the link in the chat. If that's of interest. And then I guess one thing I just want to mention too is that, you know, it's as much as, you know, we're happy, we're thrilled about mandatory composting bill. You know, we started talking about how this is really a collection bill, not necessarily composting, because it's like increasingly clear that a lot of this material won't be composted. potentially be sent to digesters. So we're talking about like really trying to like be careful with our language around it, but that's kind of a discussion to be continued. And I think that's it. I just wanted to please join if you're interested, July 10th.
Right. Yes, thank you for that update. Yes, I think so. So for data, and I don't know, Adam, if you know the answer to this, I don't know how frequently they put the information there, if weekly would be possible. I know monthly is at least possible. Do you know, Adam, if it's a weekly update?
I think it's broken down by week. So it looked like when I looked at it earlier this week, it looked like the delay was a couple weeks, 2 to 3 weeks. And that was Allison, just, because we had our DSNY community liaison, Joseph Automatelli. And when we were talking with them, asking about reporting, they told us flat out, you'll be able to see it in open data. That's what, no need to ask us. You can go find it right there. And I thought Ryan's bar chart showing, or graph showing where we were in that little bit of a slow start and probably rolling into a little bit more leaf and yard waste to boost the tons up as people started to do spring cleanups. And again, this is really, Queens is all about leaf and yard waste, and that material is definitely composted.
Right. Ryan, I'd love to see your chart, because it sounds like you guys have already dug into the data.
I'm trying to see if I can pull it up for you really quickly. And I think this is something that we can also look more into, because as we were first getting data from DSNY, we mapped out by community district, which I think, again, like going community board to community board, like having that information is helpful to show. Gosh, computer's doing so many things I don't want it. Sorry, I'm doing too many things at once.
I mean, also, I think to Allison's point, it's a trucking operation. It's not an education operation, and it's not really focused on any different pathway for processing than what's in place right now. But that my deep concern is that as we start to track those numbers over time, is that we're going to need to spend a lot more money than the 24 million that Sandy Nurse announced that the expansion program would cost. Because as we know, just doing a couple mailings, we're talking about millions of dollars, let alone the kind of engagement that a true successful compost program takes.
I found this here. Let's see. I'm gonna share my screen. Just give a sense of what this looks like. Let's see. Okay, yeah. So this is this is all of Queens, not breaking down by community district or anything like that. We can see, the program.
Not sharing. I'm not seeing it.
Gosh. Is it sharing now? Let me try
I can see it.
Oh, you can?
Yeah.
Let me try and
Yeah, we can see it.
try this, and I'll do this sometimes. Let's try this. Share. See if this works now.
Oh yeah, there it is.
Okay, great.
Other screen.
Perfect. So yeah, so we can see, the program started in the fall. There was a shutdown. There was some collection in December, but it shut down. I think they shut down on the 25th or that week. So that's why it goes back down to 0 in January, February, and then picks up again in March. And so, I think, like Adam was saying, this is a weight-based thing. So they're just weighing what the trucks are picking up. So we don't, they haven't done like a characterization study that I'm aware of to like see what they're picking up. So part of this could be, there's leaves in the fall, and that's something people were already maybe used to doing. I think part of this is, a lot of resources went into talking about the rollout of the program. And there are obviously a lot of resources going into education now, but maybe not as much. And so that's why we're seeing a slower pickup potentially. But this is kind of what the trends are looking like, is at least for the end of May, I think we were close to where we were the first month of the program. So, 3 months out, we're around where we were at month 1.
Okay.
But yeah, so I think that I think a dashboard would be great. I think that tailoring this for community boards would be great. We can get a sense of like, is this a borough-wide trend, or are some community boards, still composting a lot? Effie, yes, I see her.
Is this is just what's collected on the trucks? It's not like smart bins or anything like that, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know, Ryan. I think I've heard that it includes everything.
I think so. This is the smart bins might be picked up by truck, in which case they would be included. This is only what goes into the truck. So I know that the community drop-off sites, it's not included. For bins that they have at farmers markets, it's not included. We don't actually know about smart bins. If those are picked up by the trucks, then they are there. If they have separate trucks, I don't know that it is. There's a separate column for schools. So schools is its own thing. I don't know if they categorize the smart bins as residential or like the street, because I don't think that the street waste baskets are counted as residential refuse. So I don't know if they're including the smart bins, but we can certainly clarify that.
It's my understanding that they don't break out the smart bins separately, because they just, the smart bins are on the routes, I think, where they pick up school stuff. So I don't know. It's, yeah, I wish it was broken out separately, because that would be important.
Yeah, because I know one of the things they're also looking at is what the use of the smart bins look like in tandem with the curbside. So, there are parts of the city where the smart bins are all there is, and so that's one thing. But for the smart bins that are in Queens, there's also the curbside. And so I don't know if this was just anecdotal that they were saying that it looked like there was a small dip, but they were still being used. I don't know if they have different data or if that was just an anecdote, but we can try and get some clarity to see what they're doing. I know that it's harder for them to break things out because it is just a truck weight, but if the smart bins are somehow in a different thing, that's something that maybe we can look at. And then, yeah.
Oh, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, I was going to move on to the second point you made. So
I just wanted to say, because I know I've heard in this meeting that, a number of you have said, yeah, I'm the only person on my block that puts out a brown bin. And I wonder if, like, anecdotally, anybody has seen any change in that? Like more brown bins out, less?
Okay, so I will report from my neighborhood. I'm trying to get my video on. My neighborhood in Jackson Heights, which has a pretty high recycling or composting rate. Since we started recycling with the next round in March, every place on every building on my block is composting, and our building just had to buy a second bin because the entire building is composting and we run out of space. So, and I've been asking the people at the farmers market if they've seen a decline in the number of people dropping off compost. They've seen some, but there are a lot of larger apartment buildings that are still not composting. So we're seeing a bit of both. But I think it's really positive to see so many bins, and we also have a common courtyard, and there has been composting that we started before there was any kind of pickup, when a lot of the composting stopped at the farmers market. So, and there's been quite a bit of education. I've led a lot of the education efforts on my block, but yeah, I mean, this just happened, having to buy the second bin, which I think is great because everyone in our building now is doing it and every house on the block is doing it.
That's really great. That's really great to hear.
Just sharing also my observations, not from the streets. I don't think I see any change at all. However, at the community composting site with Site Sunnyside Composting, we have about £100 less at this point compared to a couple of months ago. And I suppose that it's probably related to the reopening of the brown bin program.
Yeah. You know, I would say for over by me, I think the pause hurt, to be honest. You know, you're just educating people and getting people involved, and then you stop the program. So it takes a while to ramp folks back up. At least I'm just speaking for my area. And to be honest, I have not been seeing an increase in brown bins over my way.
Less than 10%, roughly, my unscientific dog walking poll are using the bins in Glendale.
Yeah, go for it.
Understood. I know in South Jamaica, I'm the only one in my block doing it. There are pockets where you might see about 3 or 4, but I believe that the outreach definitely has to be improved. People have to be better educated. And then going back to an earlier point in the conversation, with regards to the rates, I'm questioning the accuracy because it's done based on weight, and there's a significant amount of contamination that I see happening when the trucks are picking up during the recycling days. Like, how do they equate for the contamination rate, number one, and then number two, does anyone on this call know if there are efforts to try to reduce or mitigate that?
That's a great question. My understanding is that because it is weight, it is including contaminated material in the weight. It's whatever they're picking up. And so if something is significantly contaminated, then that would be additional weight. And that cuts both ways with, you know, the refuse as well. So any recyclable or compostable material in the refuse, the only way we're able to determine that amount is through the waste characterization study. So contaminated material, I think, is counted as the weight. In terms of education, I'm not entirely sure, and that's something that we can raise with DSNY because, you know, I don't think that they're like turning away from Queens, but I know that like a big thing that they're working on now is doing a similar outreach as they did at the start of our program in the other boroughs as their programs are starting. So I think that it is important for us to really be pushing that education of folks in Queens is not sidelined during that we're still getting folks information and reaching out to them both for participation as well as contamination. Yeah, that's a great point. Janet.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And then I just have an offshoot question because I know this is my first meeting and I'm really glad to be a part of it. And I hear a lot of talk about like the collection efforts. And I was just wondering, does the group have any is there like a subcommittee based on reduction? Because too often when it comes to like environmental issues or recyclables program, everyone focuses on recycling, but the most important R and the 3 Rs is actually the reduction. So how I'm just curious about that.
Yeah, totally. That's a great point, and also a great question about the committees, and something that we have definitely been wrestling with as a newer SWAB. So the example of Manhattan SWAB has a lot of committees. Some do deal with the reduction, and some deal with reuse. For us as a newer org, we're having too many committees was proving to be a problem. We've combined some and cut back on some as well. So I think what we've been doing is partnering with some of the more established committees of the other SWABs. So when Allison was talking about the organics committee, that's one that we work closely with as like a pre-existing committee. SWAB, rather than creating a new committee, has joined efforts with them. And so I think that that's something that we could also do with some of their reduction and reuse committees as we build up our own institutional capacity for committees. But I do think that that's a very important thing for us to keep in mind, particularly as we're looking even at one part of the waste stream, like Allison mentioned. Like, we are also interested in recycling diversion rates. It's compost was something we focused on for a really long time, and are really happy that it's been brought. Yes, the EPR stuff and better bottle bill, a lot of that's happening in the legislative committee. But also, I think, with organics, food waste is a topic we'd want to bring up as well. So it's not just about collecting material, it's also about reducing material. So I think in terms of our committees, I think we can definitely do more joint SWAB committees and get involved in some of the work that the committees that particularly Manhattan SWAB has set up. Yes, that's an important reminder. Janet.
Hi. So just kind of going back to about, each neighborhood, I have seen an increase in my neighborhood, which is like Belrose / Fuller Park, Queens. Maybe it's due to the yard waste. I mean, again, this was like launched in fall, and then, it had died in a little bit with winter. So in my area, it's predominantly like single to like multifamily homes. In certain areas, we do have like larger like complex buildings too, but it would be interesting to hear from the Queens Farm if they have seen any changes on their end with their compost, only because before this program was launched, like that's where I would drop off my compost and see if they've seen any changes, like whether it's like decreased or increased, or, and where the Queens Farm is located, there is a huge area of just like these like apartment buildings. So, and I know when we were at the Queens Farm, like with that table event, we saw, like, we heard a lot of issues that people would have with the buildings, like whether they were participating or not. So it'll be interesting. Like, I'm not sure if that building across from the Queens Farm, like if they were participating, if they were, had the compost bins. But yeah, it just kind of sparked that interest to see if there's anything on their end for the Queens Farm. But at least with the yard waste, I mean, hopefully that kind of helped pick up and urge people to kind of pick up the brown bins.
Totally. And I think the other thing that we've talked about when we talk about those community composting sites is just the difference in material that DSNY is able to collect basically anything that's compostable, including the like compostable plastics or packaging material, like all of that, as well as like meat and dairy and bones and like anything that's organic. DSNY is able to process, and community composting sites have different requirements. And so not wanting to confuse requirements is something that DSNY is also mindful of. But, and this is a point Dior at the Bronx SWAB makes is, the community composting does play a really important role. It's a direct engagement with the processing of the material. The ability for community composting to process all of the material is not realistic, but making sure that there's still opportunities for people to actually see some site taking organic material, turning it into soil, and then using that soil is something that's very valuable. So that's another thing that we've been considering as well in these conversations. But it is really interesting to see how all of this would play out. I mean, we've heard anecdotally that there are people who don't want to hold on to food scraps for that long, so they do just bring them to the site still. Other folks, the convenience of just being able to leave it out on the curb is switching their behavior. So I think we're looking to see what some of those longer term trends are, and then see ways that we can support different entry points. And what DSNY has told us is that they're interested in keeping as many opportunities for people to divert organics as possible. So they're not viewing curbside as a replacement for other opportunities for people to compost, including the smart bins. Looking to just, not have things that people aren't using, but as long as people are still using things, having a variety of options. Quickly, because I see we're at 8, but the point that I wanted to make that you ended with, Allison, is that, I've definitely been seeing, and maybe other folks as well, that there's been kind of a series of articles that are pitched as kind of gotcha articles, that like none of the material that's collected is actually being composted. And so I think that like that framing this as like a diversion of organics and talking about organic processing, I think that is something that we want to be really mindful of, because people see calling something a compost bill and having all of these articles coming out saying it's actually being anaerobically digested, and presenting that as like this isn't what it's saying it's doing. So these are other things. Is this the? I'm not sure what.
I just put the information on the biosolids.
Oh, perfect.
Perfect. In the chat.
Yes, and then Mary, is this your comment that you're? And then you're muted.
Does this mean, from what you said, Ryan, that they were saying that they want to preserve these other options? Does that mean that the budget for the Seven Sisters it is not going down now and then over time?
So what we were told is that there are going to be budget reductions to community composting, but rolling it to the level of before the stoppage. I guess what they were saying is that there was an increase for when curbside was completely stopped, and they're looking to roll back to the rates before that. I don't know if that's true. What we were told is that they're not looking to completely cut, but I don't think that they're increasing or restoring funding to anything.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah, we got a cut to our budget for next year. Not a huge one, but a cut is a cut, and apparently the following year it's going to be bigger.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
So.
Well, great. We got a lot done at this meeting. Oh, something Andrea pointed out to me. I was under the impression that we didn't meet in July. But I think that I got my months wrong and that we meet in July and don't meet in August. Does that line up with folks' recollection of what we normally do?
Yes, I believe August is when we are off. But we do meet in July. At least that was the case last year and the year before.
The year
I think we
before.
met in August the year before that, just because there was a lot of stuff that had to be done, but.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, because our bylaws don't specify, it just says we have to have 10 meetings, so that gives us two months off. So I'll follow up with folks, but I think what we'll do then is do July and then not do August. But I'll
And then December, maybe August.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mary. Consideration for December.
Yeah. I think that's what we ended up doing last time was we did not do December, so that was the other month. So I think we'll probably plan that again to not do December, and then we'll also not do August. So we will meet next month, and then the following will be off.
Okay.
So with that, we are a little over. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion.
Well, 1 minute. Ryan, I don't know if you saw Tarika from the Borough President's office. She might want to say a few words to us, or maybe not. But I did. I know
everyone.
Hi, Tarika.
Hi, I'm here. I'm back from maternity leave with a little baby on SWAB. We're listening in over here, but I just wanted to say hi to everyone.
Okay, thank you for joining.
Wonderful. Yes, thank you so much. So yes.
Yeah, I just congratulations, Teresa. That's wonderful. And do you have any idea when our new members are going to be coming in? We're in need of activists to help us here. We're in our second year. We're hoping that we're going to get an infusion of enthusiastic new members.
Yes, why don't we set up a time, maybe Ryan with the executive board, so that we can go through the list of folks that you guys have on now and see where we need to make some appointments. I know we want to make sure we do it across the borough and have different representatives from different organizations. So I'd like to look at that list with you guys, and then we can come up with some recommendations and get them to the council members and the borough president.
Yeah, that sounds great. I can follow up with you after. Great, and congratulations. So with that, motion to adjourn was seconded. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any
And
opposed?
congratulations to Janet and Tarika, both of you, on your new babies.
Oh, yes.
Wonderful. Thank you, everyone. I think this was really great. So I'll follow up with some things afterwards. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Night.
Thank you.